You know, we're always told what to eat, but what if the real secret isn't about what's on your plate, but when you eat it? Today, we're diving deep into the science of intermittent fasting. Is it really a health revolution, or is it just a lot of hype? Let's find out. So let's get right to it. Is this whole intermittent fasting thing a real game changer for weight loss, a true revolution, or is it just another passing trend? We're going to break down the evidence. Okay, so before we dive into the new stuff, let's talk about the old guard, the reigning champion of weight loss, and, why sticking with it can be so darn hard. That daily grind of dieting is a real struggle for so many people.
I mean, it's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why do most diets seem to fail in the long run? We all know someone, hey, maybe it's even you, who started a diet with the best intentions, only to find it just impossible to keep up. So what gives?
Well, here's the hard truth from the research. The vast majority of people who successfully lose weight end up regaining a big chunk of it, usually within just 1 year. It's this super frustrating cycle, and it really highlights the challenge of long-term success.
All right, so this traditional method, it actually has a name, continuous energy restriction, or CER for short. And you definitely know what this is. It's the classic count your calories every single day approach. For decades, this has been the absolute go-to for weight management.
But because that daily grind of CR can be so tough, a new challenger has stepped into the ring, time-based dieting. And this approach kind of flips the script. The focus shifts away from what you eat every single day to when you eat.
Now, the big scientific umbrella term for all of this is intermittent energy restriction, or IER. It sounds complicated, but all it really means is you're intentionally creating longer than usual breaks between your meals, these periods of fasting.
So under that umbrella, the first big one is what scientists properly call intermittent fasting, or IMF. Now, this is not about just eating in a smaller window every day. No, this is about having whole days where you eat very, very little or nothing at all. Think alternate day fasting or the popular 5-2 diet.
Then you've got the other major player, time-restricted feeding, or TRF. And you got to understand this is totally different from IMF. With TRF, it's all about consistency. Every single day, you just shrink your eating window. So maybe you only eat between, say, noon and 8 p.m.
All right, so we've got the old champ, daily calorie counting, and the new challenger, intermittent fasting. So what happens when you put them head-to-head in a scientific showdown? That's exactly what researchers wanted to find out. Which one actually works better?
So the setup was pretty simple. On one side, you have intermittent fasting, with its feast and fast days. On the other side, you've got that steady daily calorie cutting. And here's the crucial part. The total calories for the week were matched between the groups. The only thing that changed was the timing.
And to get a really solid answer, scientists didn't just look at one study. They did a massive review, pulling the results from 11 different high-quality clinical trials that put these two diets to the test.
So, what did they find? Well, this is the big reveal, and honestly, it was pretty surprising to a lot of people. In a staggering 9 out of those 11 studies, there was no statistically significant difference in the amount of weight people lost. The fasters didn't lose more weight than the daily dieters. I mean, the researchers put it pretty bluntly in their conclusion. They basically said that when you match the calories, intermittent fasting produces the same amount of weight loss as traditional dieting. So yeah, it works, but it doesn't seem to be some kind of magic fat-burning advantage. All right, so if weight loss is a tie, that brings up the next big question, right? Maybe fasting has some kind of hidden metabolic advantage, something that daily dieting doesn't offer.
Yeah, does fasting give you some kind of metabolic edge? Does it do a better job of improving things like your cholesterol or your blood sugar levels compared to just a standard diet? You'd think it might, right?
Well, when the scientists dug into the numbers for all those key health markers, the story was surprisingly consistent. Total cholesterol? No real difference. That bad LDL cholesterol? Same story. Triglycerides, fasting glucose, fasting insulin, again and again, it was a wash. No clear winner.
So the big takeaway here is really crucial. It seems that all those great health improvements, they come from the weight loss itself, not from the specific diet strategy you use to get there. The amount of weight you lose seems to be what really matters most.
Now hold on. This does not mean the science is settled. Not by a long shot. In fact, this huge review also pointed out some major gaps in what we know. A lot of questions that scientists are still working hard to crack.
For example, what happens after 1 year? Most of these studies are pretty short, and is one easier to stick to? One study actually found that more people dropped out of the fasting group. Plus, we don't have much data on specific groups, like people with type 2 diabetes, and we're still pretty fuzzy on how these diets affect things like our appetite or energy levels.
And remember, time-restricted feeding, the one where you just eat in a daily window? Well, get this. At the time of this comprehensive review, there were literally 0 gold standard studies that had compared it directly against a standard calorie-counting diet for weight loss. That is a huge missing piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so we've waded through all the science, the good, the bad, and the unknown. What's the bottom line? What does all of this actually mean for you?
Look, the takeaway is pretty clear. Intermittent fasting is a perfectly good option. It is a valid alternative to traditional dieting, but it's not a magic bullet. The evidence just doesn't show it's superior. So at the end of the day, the best diet isn't some trendy plan. It's the one you can actually stick with.
So here's the thing. While fasting might not be a weight loss miracle, it has blown the doors wide open on this fascinating new area of research. It's made us realize that the future of our health might not just be about what we eat, but also when we eat. And that conversation, well, it's really just getting started.